I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that you stand for the pledge of allegiance and remain standing while Pastor Dominic grants peace to lead us in prayer. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Join me in an attitude of prayer. Father, we do thank you this evening for the honor and privilege it is to serve one another, either as neighbors or as public servants. We pray that your spirit of peace and comfort, but most of all wisdom, would come into this room, this gathering. That you would be the guest of honor here, and that you would guide everything that happens, every word that's said, to the end that you might be glorified. Your name might be lifted high. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Francis. Full house. Lisa, go ahead with the roll call.
James Dyson,
Present.
Medusa, here, Bill Brickspeaker,
Here.
Mike Gunner,
Here.
Jerry Hayes,
Here.
Derek Rogers,
Here.
Timothy Waters.
Present. Thank you. Would a council member like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes of our April 8th, 2024 meeting as presented.
Support. I have a motion by Jerry and support by Bill. Any questions or comments regarding those minutes? No. Lisa?
Eric,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes, thank you. Take a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting of April 15th.
Move to approve the special meeting minutes of April 15, 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Bill and support by Jerry in the reverse order. Any questions or comments on those? All right, Lisa, one more time.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have some excitement tonight. We have the Blissfield High School Flying Octopi Robotics Team, and we have a proclamation to recognize them. So whereas the Blissfield High School Flying Octopi Robotics Team completed its 2023-2024 season ranked 139th in the state, and whereas the Blissfield High School Flying Octopi Robotics Team qualified for states for the first time since their rookie year in 2020, and are the proud citizens of the team's perform. Oh wait, the Village of Blissfield's council and citizens are proud of the team's performance and the way in which they represent the Village of Blissfield. And whereas the Blissfield High School Flying Octopi Robotics Team are great ambassadors for the Village of Blissfield community, and now therefore be it proclaimed by the Village Council of the Village of Blissfield, Michigan, on behalf of a proud community, do hereby commend and congratulate the dedicated team members, coaches, and volunteer mentors of the Blissfield High School Flying Octopi Robotics Team for their outstanding achievement and express its sincere appreciation for the hard work and commitment. So well done. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Mrs. Cox. Would you like to?
Sure. I mean, I can have them introduce themselves. So I'm Ms. Cox, teacher. I'm the coach for the robotics team up here. We have all but I think 3 of our members here tonight of our team, which is small but mighty. And they've shown that they can kick some butt when needed.
So here's your student members: Evie Andrews, Rena Andrews, Cass. I'm not going to pronounce the last name. Andrew Jinsky, Tyler Bowden, Isaiah Brissett, Jared Brown, JJ Clendenin, Nathan Cole, Danica Eby, Nathan Hunt, Molly Kepler, Mason Redder, Sean David Samuels, Amelia Sizer, Jordan Stamp, Kaylee Stutzman.
Yeah.
And sorry if I butchered your last name, I'm used to it, so.
It's all good. I'm sure some of them are used to it. I'm gonna let them speak about their robot.
Great.
So, who wants to start? Our fearless leader is not here momentarily. Well, maybe from soccer. She'll get back from the soccer game, but drivers, builders.
Start.
All right, so I'm Tyler. I'm one of the drivers for the robot. Basically, our season starts off with, we get a new game every year. Like they said, January 4th, we get a brand new game. And basically, each game is different from year to year, and you have to start your robot from scratch. I mean, literally, you have a couple pieces of 1x2 metal. That's all you got. And you have exactly 6 weeks to build till your first competition. And in that time, you have to learn how to prototype, build the robot, program the robot, and make it work flawlessly where you can't take the competition. Debug it.
Can you just give us a brief description of the game that was played this year?
So this year, the game was called Crescendo. It required you to throw these orange rings, which is inside of our lovely robot. I'm not gonna attempt to.
Feel it, just so we can feel it.
Yeah, enable it. Enable.
Remember playing with a Nerf football? John, yeah, so you want to kind of feel this, but I mean, it's very much like a Nerf football.
So-
It's a different shape.
Those,
And they do get torn up, they get real.
so those are the game pieces that we had to adjust to. Pretty much build your robot around. You would shoot those into 2 different spots. What we call the speaker and the amp. The speaker would be up top. Those would be worth 2 points. And there's a little slot on the side of the field. And it's called the amp. And that is a lot of, what took the most time was the amp, because it was a vertical spot where you could drop the ring. Till end game came around, then there was a chain that hung about this high off the ground, which is what our hooks are for in the robot, where you would pull yourself up and have to hang there for a certain amount of time at the end of the match.
You just get autonomous.
And there's an autonomous period. I don't like to think about that too much. So the first 15 seconds of the match in total is 3 minutes and, or 3.5 minutes. The first 15 seconds, you have to program the robot to run completely on itself. You press a button, and it'll do whatever it has to do for the first 15 seconds. Yeah, drivers are not allowed to touch the station, the controllers, none of that. So this year, basically, a lot of teams did different autos. Our auto was just a simple, you would start with a note inside of your robot. So our auto shot out that note into said speaker, would go up, grab another note, come back, and then shoot that note. After that, it's, I believe, 3 minutes of teleop, which is where you drive just like a normal RC car, except a lot more of an expensive RC car.
Bigger.
And then, yeah, it's a lot heavier than an RC car, a lot more expensive, a lot more bigger. And then the last 30 seconds of the game was what we call end game, where a lot of teams will go to hang on that chain. So that way they'd have enough time to get off the ground and be able to hang with either another robot or by themselves.
So the games that we play were in alliances, it's 3 teams against 3 teams. And for qualifying matches, you never know who you're gonna be with. And so part of this is like strategy, trying to figure out who can make points when, how are we gonna help each other out? Because you're gonna play with most of the teams that are there at some point during those qualification matches. So it's not always the same thing every time.
Is your robot out there all by itself, or you're talking all 6 of them are out there?
All 6 of them are out at the same time.
We're all running.
So it's 2 teams of 3 robots, and if anything breaks on your robot and like you're in a match, you only have the time in between matches to fix it.
Which can be anywhere from like 5 minutes to an hour and a half. So you really have to be on your feet if something gets broken and you only have 5 minutes to fix it.
Yeah. Or be a door.
So one of our matches during our first qualification match, we actually, just kind of like a car crash, we had bent our front bumper in to where we were couldn't do much.
They couldn't actually suck up one of the notes, cause the front bumper got into our intake. So it wouldn't let it rotate, so Miss Shane
AKA four.
had to bang it with a hammer and fix it, so.
All right, Mason, you gonna give us a demonstration here?
Yeah, so we got two parts of the robot. We got the drive base, we want to enable it.
Enabled.
So we got the drive base, which. Okay.
And there was.
Yeah, they can go a lot faster.
Yeah, and then we have the manipulator, which does everything else on the base.
The way our robot works, the note gets put into the robot by going underneath the front bumper, comes up into this section here, which we call an index, which kind of holds the note inside the robot until the shooter gets warmed up. Because that motor has to spin at 100% speed for it to get up into that speaker. Right now, since we're in a small room, I'm not obviously gonna send it 100%.
So with this button right here, so we have a.
Point that way.
So, we actually have a button that runs the shooter at a lot slower speed for when we do community outreach like this, to where we don't for the amplifier.
Basically toss it out. Usually there's like a wall, so the amplifier is on the wall and the note will flop out and hit the back and then we back up a little bit and come back and hit the note back in. And so the note will slide down into it.
Putting right around people's necks like a rolling. Yeah. Like this. So they, you want to try to say. I do not tell Molly, go ahead. I don't know Molly either. I got it.
No, I meant the right
We're running a
spot.
little faster for you guys. So once we pull up the.
Right, no, let me pull it up.
You want to? All right, how do you want us to post this up here?
Do you, if you guys stand and maybe the team can stand in front of them and then Chuck can be just in the middle, if that works or whatever. We'll make it work. Up there and then we'll tell them.
Once you guys come on up here.
Disabled. Mentors, you can join them.
I think we need to look at it.
Bend down.
I'm gonna go over here some questions.
Hey, if mentors want to come up to the second level. Feel free. Well, congratulations again. It's really an impressive demonstration. Anybody thinking about NASA as a career?
We did have one student who's currently in college, aerospace engineering.
Is that?
Ben Miller.
Oh, Ben Miller.
Yeah,
Going to Western.
Yep, he is.
Got enough picks, Mr. Bader, for your?
I just want to say to the community, like the outreach you guys had to get us to states was absolutely unbelievable. I get a little clumped, I'm sorry. Like, we are truly blessed with what we have here in this community, and I just want to make sure that you know that. Like, they got us to states in a week and a half. You know what I mean? So.
And hopefully we're over the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, congratulations again and good luck next year. I'm I'm sure you made a few fans tonight. We'll all be tuning in to keep an eye on things. So,
You can always watch the matches online, but
okay.
And if you guys do get too curious, there is this website called Blue Alliance where they post our previous matches, so some matches from state, some matches from our district events. All you gotta do is go onto that website and look up, the number 8373, and our team will pop up.
You can check all of our past seasons.
Yeah.
What's that website called?
The
Blue Alliance.
And our team number is 8373.
Which you can see on our lovely bumpers that have been
Yes.
through a lot.
Yes. This is Jack. This year this is Jack. We love Jack.
Next year's gonna be Chuck Square.
Is there a significance to the number?
Not,
It's the number of the team that we were when we joined FRC.
I didn't know if there was a significance of time.
No.
So it's like,
What's the significance of flying octopi?
funny story about that. So, the year that I joined the team, it was after our rookie year and after COVID, so we wanted to rebrand because our team was called Ben 9.5. And we wanted a new name, and we all brainstormed in different groups, and we came up with the Flying Octopi, which was inspired by a team that has gone to Worlds many times in the past years, so we really liked their name. It's the Flying Toasters.
yeah, they went to Worlds this year.
Yes, they went to Worlds this year also, and we saw them at States this year, and we were like, hey, our name's inspired after you guys. And we just also really like drawing octopi, as you can see by all the stickers.
fun fact about the stickers, one of the team bonding activities that we did is each sticker represents someone on the team.
So they're all based off of some.
So like.
Amelia's here now.
This year, hi.
Well, our unofficial team captain, we haven't really voted, but basically.
Hello, I'm Amelia Sizer. I was acting as DHS Flying Octopi's club president this year. Sorry for being petty. I had a prior engagement. But we won 7-0. Yeah, this year I helped manage and design the robot. I didn't necessarily control one certain group of the aspect. We had several, such as build, design, schematics, and coding. I would manage and help along everywhere because our club is fairly built on older classmen and very young classmen. So honestly, our main goal we had this year, besides obviously competing with the robot, was training people younger than us so we can continue to keep up and proceed with the club instead of being left behind as soon as our 2024 children graduate. Or students, not children, sorry.
Your children.
Your children.
It sounds like the strategy worked out, so
Yeah.
thank you again
Thank
for
you guys
coming.
very much.
Yeah, they really appreciate it, so well done.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing that great info.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks again, thanks for sharing you.
Stick around.
Yeah, I'm curious, different thing work.
All right, come on in. Let everyone get resettled. All right, well, that excitement. Yeah, that's very cool. Danielle, you ready to proceed? All right, we are at tonight's agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Bill, support by Glenn. Lisa?
Jerry,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. Bill,
Yes.
James?
Yes, thank you. I'll now open it up for public comment. And public comment on tonight's agenda or not on issues listed on tonight's agenda. All right, seeing none, I'll move on to unfinished business. Looks like we're back. We complete the library agreement after a productive work session a week ago. Welcome back, Sierra.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like we've got all the changes that we discussed a week ago. There was, Danielle, one issue with the lease. You wanted some language concerning the lease agreement.
So do you want to start, or are you okay if I kind of jump in and?
I was just gonna take questions and deal with anything that was gonna help, so.
I didn't want to.
No, I appreciate it.
Over stuff on yours. So I do want to really quick, there were a few comments included on the agenda for you guys to review as far as the changes, and then there was the staff and legal comments. And I did want to take just a quick second to address those, and then I'll identify the other thing too, because I talked. Thank you to Sierra and to Dave. We were able to go back and forth, I think, all the way up until today and a little over the weekend, just to make sure that we could try to get these ironed out before coming to you guys tonight. There is the provisional board member vacancy was the first comment that staff had. We had sent that to Sierra, and their attorney reviewed that and provided the updated section. We're good with the way that it is now, where the library would appoint if there was a vacancy. So you make the initial appointment on the provisional board, and for some reason a vacancy opened up, then the district library board would fill that position until the election.
Okay.
And again, Dave's good with that too. The second part is the portion where it addresses the reverting back to the district library. And I think that staff and legal's concern here was we just wanted to make sure that there was no implication, or it was not, we weren't obligating funds at that point, that it would be addressed at that time in the event that it happens. And that is how the agreement's written. So that's been addressed. And then we had talked about the employees becoming employees of the district library. And I had actually put out there that I thought we could put something in the district agreement saying that library employees would have, I threw out 90 days, whatever that amount of time is, to revert. There was some concern with putting that in the district agreement, so legal and I think the library and I are good with not putting anything in for the employees. However, we would like the library to work with us to amend the current employee lease agreement to identify that time frame of 90 days. Which gives them that transition period so that they can get everything set up before they take over. And then the last comment that we have, and I talked to Dave, and I apologize here, it was like 5.
It's okay.
Or 5. So we do not currently have the facility lease agreement in place. And we would just like to amend the district library agreement to identify that will be executed within the next 90 days, and then you will assume that contract. Because right now at the end, it says that you will assume it, but technically there's nothing to assume because it's not yet in place. So that was the only thing we were hoping is to get that added.
Yeah, I think in the agreement, we tried to put in that it would be assumed once it was negotiated. I don't have any issue with that 90 days if that language is important, but I think that's absolutely fine.
So outside of that, legal and staff are good with the way that it's presented now. If you guys choose to approve this tonight, it would be up to you if you want to just have it amended with that 90 days, or you're good just saying that it will be completed and they'll assume it at that time.
Okay.
And if you have questions for myself or Sierra or any of us, we will try to answer them.
Okay.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
So with regard to the employee lease modifications, I just want to be clear. Danielle and David proposed that idea. It was actually our attorney who suggested doing it in the lease agreement and amending it. So I just want to be clear, we are on board with that. That's not an issue whatsoever. So we are all on the same page, but I wanted to be clear about expectations.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I do. I just want, so everybody knows and everybody's up front, what happens to the two employees who have pensions currently through the village if they become employees of the district library?
I actually spoke with MERS and they are able to file as a municipality under MERS because they are considered a quasi municipal board. So they would just contact MERS, they would submit the documentation where they created the district library. So I'm assuming this agreement, I'm more than happy to help connect and work through that, but their legal department reviews that, accepts them, and they would just transfer over. So everything would remain the same for them. It would just be under the district library rather than the village of Blissfield.
So they still remain vested at their current level?
Correct. Nothing would change for them. They would remain a participant of the MERS program. It would just transfer over under that district. And there's several district libraries in the state of Michigan that are already participants of MERS. So it's not anything new. It's that's been part of their process and
That's great news.
Thank you.
yes. I was hoping to have that in the agenda, but every person I contacted at MERS was on vacation last week, so it took me a little bit to get that.
Daniel, speaking of the agenda, the two points about the resolution, are we squared away with those? The one was the typo about the incorrect Brown, and then the other was the president changing to administrator. That's all.
And I didn't even really address that. So I think I did email all of you. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I did have a typo. I had put Greg Brown. It should be Oliver Brown. I apologize for that. And then the president to administrator change, that was actually a recommendation from Dave and the resolution. And he was good either way, had no legal concerns. The only reason he recommended that is that if they go to the state and there's a minor change to the agreement, that I could sign that and keep the process moving a little bit more quickly. If it was something substantial or major, it would have to come back to you guys, but that was the reason he had proposed that. But again, it's ultimately up to you guys.
And Oliver should be in the place of Greg where they're identifying the provisional district library board?
Yes, and it is in the resolution. I, on the agenda, mistakenly put Greg instead of Oliver.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks.
Follow on to what Jerry asked about the provisional board. Is the other three positions that are recommended from the school district, are those the other three remaining board positions that are currently held?
Yes.
Okay. And then how will we determine who the fourth person will be from the village side? I guess that's the other question that comes up.
So there was one person who, when the position that I ultimately was appointed to was opened, that was interested in that position. I believe we have that name, have sort of reached out, but kind of wanted to wait to see what council wanted to do with that. We have a recommendation, but otherwise, because of that position, that interest, otherwise it's whoever you'd like to appoint.
So council has one appointee on the board, right?
No, council has one open spot that they could choose. That's not somebody who's already a member of the board of trustees. Because we're going from a six
Oh, that's
member board
right.
to a
We have
seven.
the four, the townships have the three.
Correct, yeah.
Gotcha.
Just because we're going from 6 member to 7 member.
And our normal process, and I don't know if you guys would need to determine if you wanted to do the same thing. So for DDA Parks and Rec, they do a board application. And then that would be presented to you guys. And it's fairly basic. Ask which board they want to be appointed to, which doesn't currently include the library, but they could write that. It's what prior experience, what they bring to the table, why they're interested in serving. So that would be a consistent kind of standard way we've done it in the past, which is what I would recommend just for fairness for that open position. But again, it's up to you guys.
Doesn't need to be named now, so. Any other questions, concerns about these amendments or the contract as written? So it was pretty thoroughly examined a week ago.
That's
The utilities, taking care of them through Danielle, that
Yes.
was addressed. Okay, that's right. I just double check.
Yeah, so that was removed, as an, it was towards the end as
Right,
an
I
assumed
saw that.
contract
Right.
since they're in our name now.
So that's why it was blank for like.
Yes.
Can you refresh my memory about the increased 87.5 October and January?
Yes, so what we discussed at the last meeting is that, because initially it had all 4 quarters, so this year it continues as budgeted. We've already made our April payment, which is referenced in there, so we have just the July remaining. This agreement would require us to appropriate $175,000 at a minimum to the library, which would cover the $87,500 payment on October 1 and then on January 1. And then after that, we would have no further obligation under this contract. So that would be the minimum we would allocate for them. And so we'll have to keep that in mind going forward in the budget year. And the intention, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, is that they are hoping to go to ballot in August or possibly November, so they won't see their first tax payment until January. And that would allow them, well, really, it might be February, because it's a month behind, so they'll collect it in January, get paid in February. So those 2 initial quarterly payments will allow them to continue operating until they collect that initial payment.
And for sure that will be collected in January.
That is what we have been advised.
I did call Chris, the township assessor, to confirm that and make sure that if it was approved in November, if he would have enough, August or November, if he would have enough time. And he said with either election, it passing, it would be enough time and it would for sure be paid then.
Thank you.
Thank you for that legwork, Danielle.
Yes.
And then how does that increase in expenditure? How's that looking? I know you're doing budget right now.
So this current fiscal year, we've allocated, not including the roof, $248,349. So the 175 would be less than what we've allocated this year.
And just continuing on with that, if it both August and November, again, trying to just think outside the box here, if those were to be voted down, then we're going back to the drawing board, correct? And we're gonna revert back to funding them in what way?
So, and that's something that we will need to discuss. So that was one of the items on 6BB section that Dave and I had a concern with. And this is where it gets, I want to explain this freely. I do not want anybody here to think I'm saying, don't fund the library. So when I explain this, so we have no obligation now to fund the library. If they revert back, we have no obligation outside of the $87,500 2 quarterly payments. So if they revert back, we would then need to have a discussion with them to say, what, is there something else you're doing? How much money are you looking for from the village? And it would have to be a conversation at that time to determine how to proceed to keep them functioning and moving forward in whatever capacity.
These 2 quarters do fund them for 6 months, which allow for 3 possible votes. August, November, and then February was the 3rd.
I don't believe there's
3
a
bites
vote
at
in
the end.
February.
There's a question about whether there's a vote in
There
February.
is not a vote. There's not an election in February.
So when's the 3rd? Is it March then?
We talked about that February, but apparently there is no February.
Okay, so it's just the 2.
It's just the 2.
Okay.
Correct, Melanie?
I'm sorry.
Just the 2. The August and November, no February.
August, November, in an odd year, there's no February election.
Okay.
We discovered that.
All right.
So we're rolling the dice, trying to see if this will pass in the next 2 ballot measures. My fear is what happens if it doesn't, then what do we do to fund the library for the second, I guess, the next
Well,
2/3 of the year?
I would build out an annual budget and knowing that they will be paid $175,000 over the first 6 months and the second 6 months might be a drastic decrease. We'd have to.
It just makes it a challenge for us because we work on our budget in August, we vote on it in September and it starts in October. So again, for the rest of this fiscal year, or our next fiscal year budget planning session, maybe we set some sort of safety measure in place. Again, that still limits us to what we're trying to accomplish. Again.
Well, we'll certainly know in August how
Safe
close
with
it is.
Right.
So,
And
and we
whether or
kind
not
of
it
talked
passes.
about this the last time, I think briefly skimmed over it, because I said the agreement's obligating the 175 at this point, but that doesn't mean that they need to probably still do a budget for us to process an operating, so that we can review that through our regular budget process, and at that time determine if we want to allocate more or we can afford to allocate more. So the 175 isn't saying we do no more, it's just saying that's the minimum level that we'll fund them. So we will have to have conversations, and it'll be kind of weird because, well, you'll have the same budget year, so you could do one budget and adopt it as public or district, correct? It wouldn't have to necessarily be two separate budgets. Maybe a little bit different because the revenue stream will be different, but your operating, I think, will remain the same regardless.
But I think that to some extent, the easiest thing would just be to say the same thing next year as this year. I mean, I don't think you want to increase. And of course, the 87, the 175, which subtract from the total, and it's because that would already be there. I mean, there'll be set, there would have to, I mean, if we, I'm putting all of my chips on that we get the millage passed, because if we don't, there are gonna have to be massive terminations and hours cut and everything. So, at least until we figure out what the next steps are. But I guess I'm certainly not, envisioning any more money next year than this year, certainly. So, I mean, total from you.
Well, and since I guess there's no motion on the floor, I'm trying to remain humane here, but my next concern is, this is something that popped in my head at the last special meeting. And I've been chewing on it all week, certainly, is we're looking at a mill across the board for the school district. Now that includes the village residents. I thought the intent of this was to try to get everybody that utilizes the library system to pay their fair share. So what this does, it tacks on another 1.25 mils to what you're proposing onto the village residents. We need to understand, us as a council, we're not gonna be able to take that funding back or give a tax break or something like that. What that is to roll over and expend on other projects as needed for things that we've tried to do, tried to accomplish that haven't been able to. So we're trying to save money, but I'm not sure the village residents are gonna see it that way. We're already paying for a bond for a pool, we're paying for a bond for a bridge. Our water rates are seen as high. So again, I'm not sure we're accomplishing what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the outlying municipalities and residents of the school district to pay their fair share. What you're doing now is setting another proposed 1.25 mils of taxes on the village residents, still funding that library. Or we're still spending that money elsewhere. So that's gonna be a hard sell for me, not only as a council member, but as a village taxpayer.
Yeah, but realize taxable value of $100,000,
It's
so
$125 or more.
market value of $200,000+ is $125 a year.
Yes.
So you're looking at an additional, what does that work out to? $10 a month?
I get that, but
I mean,
we're trying to get people to move here. We're trying to get business to move here. This isn't just myself. This isn't just my feelings. We've got a lot of people that think we pay for a lot and what are we getting?
I think you're right.
That's my concern.
An increase is an increase, but this is,
I
this village library, this institution of what it is.
But we also own the building. We're not sure how we're gonna maintain the building. That'll still fall back on us because we own the building, we own the property. So again, it's just been eating at me in a way that, again, what we're trying to do is spread this across the board for whoever utilizes the library system.
Can we lower
in the municipality, and it shouldn't be on the backs of the village taxpayer.
Can we lower village taxes by 1.25 mils, offset it?
It's up to you guys, yes, you could,
Does that have to go to a ballot measure?
if you're lowering it, does not.
Here's the other thing you gotta keep in mind though, that is the Headley rollback. This village at one point was generating 17 mils. We're currently sitting at 14.0497 mils. We've lost 3 mils due to Headley rollback since 1978. That equates to, if I did my math right, today's money, probably $1 million a year.
A year, it's okay. Today, our taxable value is higher than it has been in a while historically. So today, 3 mils for the village would equate to 300,000 a year. Typical for Blissfield, and I truly believe our taxable value will decrease over the next couple of years. I don't think it'll continue going up. It is 80,000 per mil, so right now it's 100, it's normally 80. I would go with the 80 and count on that because this is a weird kind of outlier year. This is not our normal taxable value year.
We're at 92.04 million right now. You think that's gonna go down
I do.
with home prices going up and taxable
I
values?
think
going
at some point, something's gonna have to change with the housing market, and
up? We
I,
won't know until next month if Headley kicks in, correct?
correct, yes.
But I guess go back to my point, we're looking at a budget of right up around operations of 300 to 350,000, what we're looking for originally, and now the proposal, what you want to capture is around 400,000 for operations to increase your programming, things like that. So again, I guess my question is, how do we take, just throwing numbers out there, 200 off of the village and tag that again to the outside municipalities that are utilizing that library system, and then we still contribute in a way as a village to a certain percentage, but we're not taking all of that capture that we wouldn't be funding and just rolling into another project and putting 1.25 mils on the backs of the taxpayer. Yes, there's probably enough people in the outlying areas to defeat or to beat the village residents, but again, we're sitting here as a village council, we need to represent both aspects, and for me, representing the village taxpayer, another $125 a year in taxes. I get it's, 10, 12 bucks a month, but to some that is a lot when people already feel the squeeze.
District library requires a standard millage across the district.
Yes.
So there's no way you can do one part at a different amount than the other part. It's the same across the board. If you want to reduce taxes, that's up to you, but it can't be paid any other way than a millage. And the millage just can't vary from area to area.
Yeah, I was
That's the law.
just trying to look through, I printed out the statutes to bring just for case, so I was trying to flip through that quickly. I just want to say, you certainly have a point, right? We're asking for an increase in tax. I mean, there's no real argument about that. But I'm also a village member, right? Village citizen. And so I'm also thinking about my taxes will also go up. But I feel like I could probably provide 2 statistics that show that property values are increased when there's a library nearby. And so I think that there's a lot to consider in addition to just, wanting to utilize the library services. I mean, I think there's a lot of marketing that will need to be done, obviously, right? And which is why the faster we get this going, the more time we have to communicate with our public and to work with them to help them understand why this benefits them. Obviously the tax decreases and things are certainly within your power, and we would appreciate whatever support you feel is appropriate. But it is part of the District Library Establishment Act that says that you have to levy the same millage across all municipalities that are utilizing the library. So that's why we can't offset, or that probably would have been a discussion worth having if we could do that.
Understood, again, but perception becomes reality, and literally the residents' taxes go up. And they're asking, well, what services are we getting? We need to say, yes, we're funding library, but we're also replacing, these water mains now, we're doing this infrastructure improvement. But a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people are against it, and they're tired of having to pay for the upgrades that we have to do. And unfortunately, these upgrades have to take precedence, and we have to prioritize how we budget, what we can. To me, it's just a hard sell to say, you're gonna get the same services, you're gonna get the same library programming, things like that. And you're gonna pay another 1.25.
Actually, they're gonna get an increase in library services and programming, right? Because if you think about how tight the budget's been over the last few years, this is actually an increase in, so this will be a budget surplus for you. So you'll actually be able to put on programming that you've not been able to in the past. And it's coming from larger metro areas. Library services are so vast. It's amazing to me what they provide, even just going down to Sylvania. And I know with the limited budget, I mean, I'm sure Bosman died to attract some of that programming. So I think this is a great thing. I understand it's an increase in tax, and we can absolutely review the 1.25 decrease. Maybe if it doesn't go through in August, we can propose that in our budget. But this definitely gets this off our rolls for the future. And I'd love to sell the library building to you as well, so that way you have full autonomy to do what you want as far as maintenance and upgrades and improvements and renovations, future build outs. So I'm encouraged by this. Really, this is what we asked for. We pleaded for them to find additional funding. We made it known that we can't continue to afford it. I think a lot of village residents have spoken up. There's a lot of support when, just in the last budget negotiations, and I'm still hearing support for it. School board is supportive. So this is a good thing, and like you said, taxable value with the library. So a lot of good, and I get the increase in tax. I don't want to pay more taxes, but I do understand that there's services that go with it. So I'm encouraged by it.
If we were to decrease the taxes by 1.25 mils, no, once you decrease it, it's gotta go back to the voters if you want to increase it again.
Okay.
So that would leave us at today's taxable rate of $164,500. $164,500 worth of funds that are currently going to the library, if we take out that 1.25 mils.
Well, we're currently funding the library at $260,000 plus $100,000 for a roof.
248, 349.
62.
So it's
yeah,
$62,075 and 25.
$250,000. So we're still $90,000 ahead. Plus, we had a $100,000 capital set aside for the roof. So it's still $90,000 ahead. Which I mean, $90,000 goes quick here. I get it, but still. And I mean, maybe we examine something like a mill.
And I think I think there's a lot of conversation that can be had regarding the mill and what you guys want to do there. But I think tonight, we don't have to decide on the mill, we have to decide on the agreement.
Right.
So that needs to, if this agreement, you guys approve this agreement, then we come back and say, okay, do we want to reduce it by 1 1/4? Do we want to reduce it by half a mil, whatever, and we'll have those conversations at that time. So I think tonight we need to say, yes, proceed like we've asked you guys to do and try to get this mill and move forward, because they need to get this filed with the state. And they also need to be able to say, let's go start having these conversations, let's start marketing, let's answer these.
Well, I get that. I'd like to have unanimous approval for this. Coming support from this council of unanimous. So I think these are valid talking points here tonight to make sure that this vote is unanimous. To show our village residents like this is a good thing.
Sierra, I do have, I know we mentioned at last week's meeting, if in order to give you enough time to get all of this done and in place, if we are able to if this passes through tonight, is there enough time between now and August to get everything in place, which I assume that there is, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about that. But if it were to not pass in August, do you have enough time between August and November to get it back on the ballot in November?
I believe Bob did verify that because we are proceeding by resolution and not by petition, we do have time between the August election and the filing dates effectively. for the November election.
I'm guessing,
August 13th is the deadline for
Yeah.
filing.
that's what I was wondering.
Correct. So we would have time to get on the November ballot.
Yeah, so we
I
would
didn't know
have
if there
to
would be
wait.
additional ballot language that might have to be approved. I would think that it may be the same ballot language.
Yeah, we have a week to work with our attorney and, you know, she's obviously aware of timelines for these sorts of things because she is the attorney for the district libraries in Michigan. So we certainly are.
Obviously, to afford you as much time as possible to get this through, that's of critical concern.
Which we appreciate, especially, you know, watching the schools go through what they did to ultimately get the good things for our students. We, you know, may be in the same boat of having two opportunities for that. I think would give us more opportunities to speak with residents and build that support, which, as you see, we are starting.
Do you know what percentage of your customers reside within the village versus the townships? Roughly?
Of the township or all the townships?
I'm just saying, like, what percentage of your customers are from inside the village? Roughly.
50 or 60.
Percent?
50 to 60. Most of them are in the village.
And they pay the same quote membership fee? Village residents and
No, right now, the townships, we've talked about this before, the townships, we only get state aid and penal fines from the townships. They don't pay.
like if
there's no
you
other-
signed up for a membership, if you had an individual.
Library card.
Library card.
Yeah, you don't have to pay. If you live within our either the contract jurisdiction, which is the townships, half of Palmyra right now, that they have.
And see, that's the
almost
problem, is it all falls back on the village's taxpayer dollars to fund that, and they can utilize it from outside.
Correct, and I thought that's
outside the
one.
village for free. That's my issue. That's what I thought we were trying to solve. I thought we were trying to spread the wealth across the board, the payments across the board on those who utilize.
This is
Well,
the-
if they can get this passed, then
This is the
well,
only.
but then if we do a cut, we're still not collecting up to the $400,000 of what they're wanting.
But we aren't paying, they're collecting more because I'm only telling you the taxable value for Blissfield, not for their entire district. I don't know, they're saying that's 400,000 for the 1.25. I would have no idea. So I would assume that's correct. So when you're talking, I guess I should have clarified that. When I was saying 1 mil for the village right now is 100 or normally 80, that's just Blissfield. That does not include, because they've got portions of Ogden, Palmyra, Deerfield.
Not Deerfield.
Or Briga.
Briga, yeah.
That
Blissfield Township outside the village.
that are not included, because I'm not sure what that equates to.
There's
actual
actually,
value-wise.
property value, well, I mean, if we're talking about property value within the population, that actually right now, the outside the village is slightly larger population wise than inside. But our cardholders are more than half inside.
There's still the opportunity for you to tie a tax cut to this passing, right? If that's what you choose, that's what the council chooses to
I mean, you
do.
would be saving around 3 mil.
Right.
If-
That would
if-
be,
if- if the
that's
library
not
came
anything
on
we can
above.
do, but
There's nothing.
that
we
is
can do about
something
that.
that
No, you're
you
correct.
can figure out as a council.
Yeah, I think that would be something that would come in budget negotiations or probably post the August vote.
Just something has to give on our end, on the village's side. We can't. I can't say that I think you're gonna pay for the same. You're gonna pay 1.25 mils more than what you were. Like us as council are gonna budget, take the rest of that, the money and offset it and put it back into projects. I think there needs to be some sort of give and take, whether it's half that we were to utilize or capture and spend on other projects or whatever. But the full 1.25 for me, I don't think that's gonna sit well with village taxpayers.
Cause you're basically asking them to approve 1.25 mils for the same services.
Yes and no. Because
Will accomplish more, but people don't see that.
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head, and then that would be our job to go ahead and explain and have the outlet, media outlet, social outlet, whatever the outlet may be, to explain that with this, not extra money, because it certainly is not extra money, but, those funds would be utilized in other areas of the project that haven't been able to get done.
Right.
And so you can look at it that way as well, say, well, this project has not been able to be done for a number of years because now we can get it done because, and no, as we've said many times, lead lines are not glamorous. But we all know that that is one of the projects that we'd like to work on, as well as many others that we could maybe complete. And go through.
Not one department was fully funded.
No, not at all. So that would
Not
allow
one.
something to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
But with
one
tax being the
department.
way they are, I feel
I-
people want the squeeze, they want us to be a little more conservative and are, you know, a little more frugal or, and.
But we would be, in my opinion, because also the jobs, the longer the jobs, as you well know, Mike, if the job is, the longer the job is kicked down the road, the costlier it is. So does it benefit us to get that project done ahead of time or in a more timely fashion? Yes, and this would allow us to do some of those projects in a more timely fashion versus kicking it down the road.
This would even allow us to take a look at the bridge as potential. But if this doesn't go through, then, I mean, that bridge is.
That's a whole nother discussion, you're right.
Right.
But
We're looking at $157,000.
Yeah, we've got a lot to clean up.
That's what we're looking at. If this passes and we reduce by 1.25 mils, maybe on a good day, 157. That's the additional we'll have to work with.
I'd be in favor if that helps this pass, I'd be in favor. I'd love to have it, but nobody's realizing their budget anyways.
Right.
And I apologize, the timing is very tight and I'm certainly not trying to poo-poo on this plan. Again, I think it's needed. It's something we've asked for you guys for 24 months now, at least, and I appreciate you moving forward. Again, I'm just trying to think of the big picture and the best way to pull it off.
and then I think you're right there, like that you make some valid points, certainly, because I did the same thing, chewed on it, I'm sure, I was kind of chewed on and said, okay, it's gonna be extra taxes. What do we do when you look at it in just very blunt, extra taxes, extra money? Okay, now let's go ahead and take the $100, $125, and let's divide it out per month. Okay, then that's one way to look at it, but then again, going back to the parts of our village that have not been fully financed and what it can do for us, that's the other side of the coin we have to think of.
And I totally agree, and I'll pay it if needed, but there are a lot of people that are becoming more vocal, that they want us to squeeze and they want us to cut and they want us to trim, and unfortunately, I think that's what people
You understand that?
want right now.
I understand, and we're not disagreeing.
And I just want to say, we're the ones who have to kind of market this regardless of what you do, right? And so we appreciate that you're taking time to think about ways to make this successful. The fortunate thing is you can have these discussions, we can move forward in this piece at least. And get that deadline, our deadline met, and you still have plenty of time to decide how we want to approach it, or how you want to approach it, we don't have a problem here. How you want to approach it when it's time to actually come to start advertising and all these things, because there still are a few weeks of logistics of just getting things in place before we can even really start working with our YES committee to get things moving. So, while I certainly appreciate that it's always nice to have all of the ducks in the row, we can at least get the majority of them in line and be prepared to kind of move forward. And then you guys have time to think about these very important issues, right? I mean, that's not a small choice. And I don't want to belittle that choice because it is a large one. But the fortunate thing, like I said, is that we can take this step to move toward that. And you still have the option to do whatever you believe is best for the village, which again, as a village resident, I would, encourage and appreciate.
Do we have a meeting of the whole agenda? Or a open meeting of the whole in the next 1 to 2 months?
Yes, I have June scheduled. I don't have anything for May.
Okay. would that satisfy us for tonight,
So-
coming back in May and having an in-depth conversation regarding that, Mike? It'll also give us time to get out and get some feedback as well.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you've already gotten some.
And I do agree with the language here, and again, I wanna see it move forward, I just crystal clear once again. If things don't go the way we want it to, we're legitimately potentially cutting. Or looking at possibly underfunding you 50 grand because we're rolling the dice now, trying to get this happen. We're paying the legal fees, whatever, everything else to make it happen, and if it doesn't, as much as I want it to. Just be forewarned, I hope it's not speaking for the rest of council, but for myself. That it may be a challenge to fund the library for that second half of the next fiscal year. And again, I don't want it to come back to where we're the bad guy, because we are trying to help you, we're trying to make it happen.
Well, I thought we did a good job last week in setting expectations, so yeah, I'm still encouraged by this movement forward.
So I do want to just share, so you guys cannot contingently approve the mill reduction, but what you could do. And keep in mind, we can never exceed the mills we're at now. So as long as you're working within the voter approved mills, you could make a motion to decrease the mills. And if the library millage fails, you would then make a motion to increase. Again, as long as you're not exceeding our total approved mills right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go back to a vote.
As long as it doesn't exceed where we're at now. Now, this is a timing thing.
So
If
that's,
we're like 2 years down the road, yes, I think you're going back to the voters, but
right,
if you're saying in your vote. I make a motion to reduce by 1.25 mils. Pending the library mill being passed, it fails, then you immediately come back because we're in the same tax cycle. So once you go outside of that, it would go back to the voter.
Back
So
up
I'm
to-
just, yeah, I wanted to, I guess, make sure you guys know that, and we can talk about it at the committee of the whole as well. What you can't say though is I make a motion to contingently reduce the millage. It has to be the two separate motions.
And that would be up until September 30th. Or does that carry through our fiscal year and go through the tax?
Our tax,
Of 12/31.
our taxes are collected once a year in July, so if we go outside of our
Okay.
tax cycle, then we're going back to the voters.
So we
If
have
make
until
the
July
first.
1st of 2025.
Correct,
Or
because, well, it's
June
really,
June 30th.
it's actually earlier than that, I can give you the exact date, because we have to publish our truth of taxation. I wanna pull that date, so I can tell you correctly, it's before that, but it would be not until 2025.
Okay.
It would be well before, within the time that they're going to the voters for their mill.
And I apologize to the library board and everybody that's here regarding that, but yeah, if we could have maybe run a couple scenarios, versions, maybe if we were 0.75, for the village, things like that, and then that gives us a little bit more idea of.
Yeah.
What we could operate with, what we're trying to accomplish, where we're at. Again, I know it's a lot during budget time, but to see those numbers, I think would make it a little bit.
Well, to do
clearer for
it
us,
next
I think.
month, at the meeting of the whole prior to budget, I think you're
I
absolutely
can
right.
easily provide, cause I know what a mill is, so I can.
And I'd invite you back for the meeting of the whole, that's a.
will we know by the committee of the whole whether or not our village gets rolled back this year? Do you know when
I
that comes out?
don't know, it'll be close, I'm not sure there either.
Okay.
I don't see it this year. Things are still up.
I do think we will see a small.
You think we'll see a
I
drop?
do. Yeah, I don't think it'll be more than 1 mil, but I do think we'll see a small.
Because of taxable values being
Because of
up.
Eckley, yeah,
And inflation's down, so.
I could be wrong, that's just my prediction. I
Right.
think you're probably looking between like a quarter and a half
Working on it.
mil, but don't hold me to that. But I'll include that as part of the information.
Would, is there a motion from council at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the Schultz Holmes Memorial District Library Agreement as presented.
I'll support that.
All right. I have a motion from Jerry and support from Eric. I know there's been a lot of discussion, but I'll ask one more time. All right, seeing none.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we do have a lot to discuss, and again, I don't want the village residents think that this is just, yeah, it is what it is, but we will obviously take the next few months and look at numbers and run numbers and try to do what's best for the village residents, obviously, and the library.
I'm sorry to be a pain, but could the motion be to approve the district library agreement and either the resolution approving the agreement and the attachments, because you have two resolutions and really you're approving the agreement through those resolutions?
How would you like me to reword that?
Do we need something about the 90 days added on that?
No, we do not. Are you changing the president to administrator? I need to know that before I tell you the motion.
Yeah.
Were you guys good with
Yeah,
that?
let's
And that's not
That's fine.
that's not anything major about it. Okay, so you would make a motion to approve the resolution
Okay,
authorizing or approving the district library agreement and approving the resolution approving the attachments to the district library agreement with the amendment of changing president to administrator for executing any amendments from the state. I know that's very long, but I have to include all,
You got it, Jerry.
we have to put all the pieces.
He's got to wiggle down.
Lisa, can you back that video up?
I'm definitely gonna need it.
no, all right, so I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the Schultz Holmes Memorial District Library. And and to approve the attachments with the amendment to change president to administrator.
I will support that again.
This is Brenda, the interpreter. I have lost all sound. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
we're ready when you are.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James.
Yes. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you to the library, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, yeah, library board members, please feel free. Speak yourself. Thank you for your patience. Hope you enjoyed the flying octopi. We had a special guest out, for you. Art, you staying? Staying awake?
No, I'm staying.
All right, you're staying.
With reading.
All right. Moving on to new business then. First item on the agenda, resolution adopting the Lenawee County Hazard Mitigation Plan. We have a representative tonight, and so I will just turn the floor over to you.
I'm Craig Tanis, I'm the Emergency Management Director for the county. And basically, we have,
Can I just ask for silence, please? Thank you.
we have a county hazard mitigation plan that we have to have in place. And we just recently finished, doing, renewal of that plan. Last August is when we received FEMA approval. They changed, the way that works a little bit. In the past, when the county approved a hazard mitigation plan, and it was approved by FEMA, every jurisdiction in the county were automatically part of that plan. Now FEMA is requiring that we go to each individual municipality within the county and ask them to, also adopt that plan. There's no cost to you to adopting the plan. There's no reporting requirements. You'll notice in the plan, we came up with some projects to help mitigate some of the top hazards that were identified in the county. You are under no obligation to participate in those projects. However, if you would like to participate in those projects and there's FEMA funding available to help pay for those projects, and you have not adopted the plan, you are not eligible for those funds. In the same token, if there's a project not on that list, but it's a project that FEMA has funding for and you want to do that project, again, you have to have the plan adopted in order to be eligible for those funds. So I look at it as a no-cost homeowners insurance policy. In my 30+ years of owning a home, I've never filed a claim on my homeowners insurance, but you gotta have it. Because if you don't and your house burns down, you're on the hook to replace the whole house. So it's the same thing with this. You adopt the plan, you may never use it. But if something comes up where you want to utilize FEMA funds to help either fund one of the projects in the plan or a project not in the plan, you have that insurance policy because you've adopted the plan, so you're not eligible for those FEMA funds. And also, just like an insurance policy that has a deductible, the FEMA hazard mitigation grants do have a match. It's a 25% match, so they pay 75% of the project, you pay 25%. But that's still a significant savings of, if it's a $10 million project, you only have to come up with $2.5 million instead of full 10 million.
Sure.
And those what FEMA comes out with every year for projects that they prioritize changes it year to year. So there may not ever be funding for any of these projects on the list. We just don't know. There may be funding for some next year and some other ones the following year. So it depends on what FEMA is kind of targeting for their, what they feel is important for mitigation projects.
Is that something you stay up on countywide and sort of urge municipalities to apply for the FEMA grants?
Yeah.
Or at least notify them of their eligibility?
So with the projects that are listed in the plan, I absolutely do. I'm constantly trying to find FEMA funding available for those projects. Because the committee that came up with the plan, it wasn't just made up of myself or county employees. So there were fire chiefs from multiple jurisdictions, police chiefs, the road commission, the health department. Then there was also surveys sent out to the public as well as municipal leaders. So we got input from, multiple different jurisdictions and professionals. Yep, we had school board representation as well.
Craig, may I ask, is there a reason why Blissfield was not part of that committee or part of the communication when you guys did this?
So it was
before me, so I'm just not sure.
It was opened up to the fire chiefs and police chiefs. And it wasn't something where they had to attend every meeting, but then it was also sent out to all the clerks and supervisors and or administrators to the village as far as the surveys. So those were sent to every municipality in the county.
Okay, thank you.
And I understand sometimes emails get lost, get filtered out in spam, and maybe some didn't get those emails.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
So to clarify, this is something new that FEMA is implementing. It's a requirement in order for FEMA funds to be received, that we have to apply for this.
For hazard mitigation
So say
funds. So
For
if it-
example, like Maui, they had the
So it-
wildfires, if they never would have signed this, they would get no FEMA federal funding to mitigate whatever happened.
Nope, so if it's a disaster, then you don't have to, you do not have to have this plan adopted to get disaster assistance. Hazard mitigation funds are, it's a separate block of grants that FEMA offers, to help pay to mitigate potential hazards, and by mitigate, I mean, you're trying to lessen the impact of that hazard. But if it's a tornado, you know, a natural disaster that hits that you have no control over, FEMA is not gonna, not give you disaster assistance.
It's proactive
Right,
application,
correct.
which the funding is probably limited on most.
Well, like I said, they come out with just a handful of projects that they prioritize, and so. If you don't fall under one of those projects, if you're not trying to do one of those projects through FEMA, then there's no funding available.
So you're talking about an incident where, heaven forbid, the Adrian Blissfield Railroad's bringing tank cars through, a tank car derails and spills its contents. Is this covered under, that kind of situation covered under this?
That would be under disaster assistance.
Okay.
This would be if there's a wetland beside the railroad, they would come in and put in some mitigating stop, berm, whatever, so if that was to take place there on that track, the wetland would be least impacted. That's what this is, it's preventive.
So one example I can give you that, directly affected the village was the last time the bridge was closed on 223, I think it was 2012. 2016. There were, hazard mitigation funds available through FEMA to raise that bridge so that it wouldn't be impacted by the floodwaters and debris as much. I mean, it would have to raise a lot more to do that. However, at that time, the village didn't feel they could contribute to 25% matching cost. So if that would happen now, and you had the funds available for the match, and you did not have that plan adopted, you couldn't get any of the FEMA funds. You'd have to pay for the entire project yourself.
Not trying to put you on the spot, but a big question here is flooding, and obviously tree dams, log jams, that sort of thing are causing a lot of that, which is causing the problems here, you know, downriver. Would that potentially be something that we could look at saying, this is causing damage? Obviously, it's been proven, you know, as soon as they remove those logs, the river drops that fast. Is that something that could potentially help us clean that up and mitigate the flooding that we continuously deal with here?
Correct. If there were funds available. So again, that's on a year-to-year basis as far as what FEMA prioritizes on the types of projects they want to see funded.
Is this document new, or is this replacing an existing document?
So it replaced our old hazard mitigation plan, which actually expired in 2016, which was prior to me taking the job. I got the job in 2017. So I was left with an expired plan. And then the plan's good for 5 years. And then we are supposed to update that every 5 years. And then, of course, COVID hit, so that kind of delayed our whole planning process. But it was about a 2.5-year process to get through the entire thing. In fact, we have to hire a consultant that actually leads us through the planning process and then actually puts the plan together and has knowledge of what FEMA, you know, he told us a few things that, you know, FEMA's gonna want to see this in here. And
If other communities in our county, have they been able to take advantage of this in any way?
I don't know of any that have taken advantage of any of the funding, the hazard mitigation funding, but I do have probably 10 or 12 that have already adopted this plan, this go around.
And you're talking obviously grant money, you know, we don't utilize it, somebody else would. So again, I guess I would request that the fire chief, the police chief, and the village administrator be contacted, emailed, whatever, when you do figure out what funds are available or how FEMA, you know, instills those or, you know, opens that funding so that we know what we can request.
So I look, so what I'm gonna do is I compare what they have available for funding and do any of the projects in this plan qualify. I wouldn't know what projects you're thinking of that might qualify. But
You can't just send everything like this is what's available, or this is.
but that's something you guys can, or they can look on the FEMA website, because once you adopt this plan, if you adopted it. I send a copy of that resolution to FEMA, they put you on the approved list, you don't have to apply for any of those grants through me, you guys can go directly to FEMA.
So you're saying those grants would fund clearing out the logs in the river? The logs.
If that's one of the projects.
It would have to be listed as funded.
Right.
For that.
Every year FEMA has specific lists of projects that they will fund through. And they actually call them BRIC grants now, BRIC, which is Building Resilience, and Infrastructure in Communities. So the next administration will probably change the name. So it just depends year to year what they're gonna fund. But flooding is a big thing, not just for this community, and it's actually, believe it or not, flooding is the top hazard in the whole state of Michigan. It's not tornadoes, it's not thunderstorms, it's flooding.
Yeah, I think it's 7 miles is for this point you can be away from water, it's state. So, a lot of water coverage.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion. Or if there's more questions for Mr. Tanis, go ahead.
I know it's a little bit more of like the, I guess, fire and emergency response side, but chief, any questions, comments, I mean, would you utilize any of that? It's more so sort of natural disaster and whatnot, but.
Well, it's preventive maintenance, if I'm not mistaken, like Craig said, anything disaster related is completely separate, that's a separate animal. So it's just preventive maintenance. Until this came through, I didn't even know about this project, so I don't have any input. I didn't know anything about it, so I don't know, if email got lost or what, but I was never contacted, I didn't know anything about this initiative.
And that's something I would say, Blissfield, we need to make sure that the next time this comes up that we're included. I think it's important for us to be part of this conversation, and it affects us and the other fellow communities, and I think the things in here are relevant to Blissfield, but and again, it was before my time as well, so I'm not sure, and that's why I'd asked the question. And that's not so much for you, Craig, I think that's just for all of us to understand that in the future, it would be beneficial, I think, to have a seat at that table.
And there's also projects listed in there that don't really cost anything that, you know, can be worked on and implemented at the local level, whether you adopt the plan or not.
It's and I kind of skimmed over it. Right now, we have a log jam building up on the bridge. MDOT has been slow or not responded at all after repeated requests from me, Danielle, and DPW. We each called them at least once in the past 2 weeks. They haven't shown up yet to our knowledge. Would your plan, if funding's available, help alleviate some of the debris on the river that's causing log jams? Is that like a preventative type maintenance project that might be covered by this?
That is, if it's a project that FEMA has listed in their hazard mitigation funding.
Is that covered in this plan? Would something like that be covered or not?
It would be, but again, to get grant funds for it would be up to FEMA, and
Right.
like every year they have their guidance and what they're gonna be willing to fund. What type of project they're willing to fund, and it can be, if it's not a project in that plan, but FEMA has funding for it. By adopting this plan, you could still do that project, so it doesn't have to be a project in that plan.
It is
Like
a
you-
project in here.
Okay.
It does address it. It's on page 128. But again, it sounds like either way would be good.
I just want to make that clear, so if there's a project that comes up and you notice that FEMA's got a grant to help pay for, and I don't know what it would be, X, and it's not listed in that plan, you can still, by adopting that plan, apply for grant funds to do a project not included in the plan.
Ed left earlier.
I think they can.
Move council to approve the resolution adopting Lenawee County Hazard Mitigation Plan dated August 25, 2023.
Support. Motion by Tim and supported by Bill. Any other questions? Discussion? Oh, Lisa?
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time tonight. Thank you for
Thank you.
presenting. Just please make sure you get email confirmations and stuff or updated email address. We'd like to be involved, so thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports. Any questions on the reports? None? Emilio, you're here tonight. Do you want to present the Parks and Rec report? Do you have anything,
Now, unless you guys have any questions, concerns, comments? Don't have anything really hit on.
you hear the pickleball's a real hit? Oh, there's no questions on the reports. I'll roll it into council discussion then.
I had a couple, not to drag it out. Old pool, any updates? You already-
My computer just like reset. Sorry.
Old pool,
Uh,
contracts.
Yes, I have one price that is phenomenal. That I don't want to announce publicly because I'm waiting on another company to provide a bid, and I would like to come to council and request that we waive our normal processes and award to a contractor that is local and willing to work with us for a really good price. Because there's no way if we did this, we are going to come in anywhere close. I have been waiting on the one contractor for a few weeks. I'm actually, I had intended to follow up with them last week and the time just got away from me. I will touch base with them this week. So I'm hoping to bring that to you guys in May and move forward with that.
Perfect, thank you.
Sooner the better.
Yep, water line construction under the river.
We are waiting, everything is designed, ready to go. We're just waiting for our Eagle approval on that so that we can get it out to bid. We thought that we would have approval a few weeks ago. I did talk to Aaron Hacker with Manic Smith last week. He was gonna call them and see if what was going on, if there was concerns. I don't think they're going to, that's just kind of a slow turnaround with them sometimes.
Really want to see that project happen.
Yes,
Well, we can
yeah,
do it.
me too.
Well, we have dedicated ARPA funds. What's the schedule?
So we have to have those, to spend it's 2026, but we need to have them obligated by December 31st of 2024.
Okay, I thought there was a caveat.
And last, just doing housekeeping things, we had a concerned landowner, property owner on Quick Street about the budding property behind him on West Adrian. That we've revamped these ordinances or whatnot to have a little bit more to go after people that aren't following those ordinances. Is that what we needed to take the next steps to address the issue on West Adrian? And I don't like throwing out numbers and addresses, but the Quick Street apartment complex.
I will have to.
Can we check on that? Because that's been, I think, 2023 that we have, probably October, I think, that we haven't discussed it since. And I just have tried to follow up with the property.
I'm
owners.
totally drawing a blank on
I
that
know
one
what
right
you're
now,
talking
Mike, I'm
about.
sorry.
I know we worked on it last year. I don't know since Maddie's taken over, but I'll make sure we work on it.
His last contact from us was that, again, we don't have the ordinances to really implement to go after these people, these properties.
I remember- I
So
know
hopefully
exactly what you're
we've mitigated that problem and we can go after them.
Yeah, we can look into that. I think if it was before those ordinances or before Maddie we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, kind of reset and start, but move forward the way that the ordinance
Yeah, I
is
just want
written.
some follow up for him, so I appreciate it. That's all I got.
Anyone else? Bill, Glenn, Tim, Aaron, Jared, good. Well, public comment. I will open the floor to public comment. Remind you, you have a 5-minute limit and ask you to state your name.
I have a donation from the Blissfield High School class of 1968 toward the Blissfield bicentennial.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Very cool.
See, that was quick. I don't know, Laura's not here, I'm going to you.
What class, what year?
The class of 1968.
Thank you.
I got one. What about the baseball fields? I haven't heard anything, that project.
Which project are you referring to?
Farmer property. They're gonna put 4 baseball fields over there.
It's sold to a different
I
owner.
wanted to resolve it.
Yeah, sold.
Different property sold, yeah.
Oh, so it's not a baseball thing anymore.
Nope. Good to see you back, sir. Welcome back.
There are some projects at the Little League fields, dugouts.
Bachmeyer, right?
Both, yeah. First base line at Farmer, third base was done, and then both dugouts at Bachmeyer. But there was some funding from a former gift.
I've actually talked to Jake about this. We're going to meet, it's just been kind of crazy with their registration and season starting.
Yeah, it's something that has to take place late summer, early fall.
Yes, yeah, we talked about like end of May touching base and trying to move forward on that.
Okay.
This year, that project should be done.
You gotta wait till season's done.
It's probably gonna be both. We'll probably get some stuff done this year, but not, I would assume not all of it.
I did have one more. Can't see.
Speaking as a member of the public.
Sorry, can't be cool.
Yes.
Construction.
Yes.
Happening.
I actually talked to Jake Norman last week. Him and Al have been working together on that and they are shooting for, I think within the next 2 weeks, they're looking at getting that going. Al's going to start. I don't want to confirm a date just because I'm not hot, but it will be done. They've assured me, yes, the fence guy is ready to go as soon as the shelter is up. The picnic tables are in, they're at the pool. I actually recruited my kids to put them all together, so we'll be good. And I will keep you posted on that.
Special request, I thought about driving, can you get a conduit under that to the building? Just for future planning. From the outside, because that makes it very challenging to get to that building. If we can get enough conduit towards the sand hill or towards the mound on the south, I guess I'm trying to think for future,
Yeah, if you're expanding out.
people want these heaters to be ran, we may, maybe solar may be a better way to come up with a way to meet that goal. We'd rather have conduit under that slab before we fill it in, maybe 2-inch or 2-inch and a half, something like this, easy. Should be easy.
What's it gonna tie into though?
It
You're just saying
top
keep it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll probably just have to do that, because that's not part of any proposal or.
that Brent can get that in very quickly, I think, with Smitty's out there. Yeah, I think it'll be beneficial, hopefully in the long run. Cause those heaters aren't cheap and people want those running and gas is $10,000.
Yeah, what's that down?
Well, I mean, I hate to harp, but they want a reduction in taxes, but they want heaters on. It's so hard to balance.
I got another one. Wasn't there government funding for replacing the lead pipes? State of Michigan?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I thought.
grant funding, you have to apply for it, it's not just given to.
Oh, it's not just given?
Correct. So it's an unfunded mandate. The state just earlier this year opened up grant funding for communities to apply for assistance. The Village of Blissfield did apply. We are listed as a priority 1 community, which all that means is that we would have to be funded before any priority 2 community could get funding. But there are 65 priority 1 communities listed. And we are not currently funded. We just would be if additional funds become available. Which
Yeah.
they did not at this
Because I know I heard all that about the government funding. I didn't know it had to be a grant. I just thought they were taking care of it.
I wish. They are not.
Real quick, Danielle, yeah, Mike, Jake and Al, I think they're just waiting for the weather from the last, our meeting, so as soon as it gets nice out there, they'll head out there. Instead, so with the heater, is like, that's the straight option we're going to, there was something that's in the minutes from either the last month or 2 months ago about a solution that they use at the old pool to help heat it. I mean, it's not gonna make it to where everyone's happy, but it made a difference. I mean, is that an option too while we run the heat, or do we just throw out that solution? I think Kelsey had brought it up.
That cover they put on it every night,
Right. Yeah,
to hold the heat in. Those covers are still down there. At the old pool.
so that probably helped with the solution.
If they're in any kind of shape. you can
Right.
use. Think they're still down there with that.
Yes. Talks to B&E or whoever.
So we did talk about that, they'd have to match the dimensions, the covers have to go edge to edge to be efficient, so. It's really a waste for us to put a cover with the wrong dimensions, it's not gonna really do anything. There's nowhere, it's not just putting a cover, how do you store it and put it away each day? There's a lot to it, it's not just as simple as having a cover thrown out there. And that's what we had discussed at that level. And I will be honest with you guys, my goal this year is to start the heater and get it running, and I'm gonna report back to you what that usage is in a day and what that expected cost is going to be, and then we can determine how to move forward at that time. Also, keep in mind, we have 2 heaters. We have the main pool heater, which is pretty significant in size, and then we have a much smaller heater, but that only heats the splash pad. So that's the other conversation, are we heating the splash pad and the pool or just the pool? I was just going to heat the pool, but I mean, that's something we need to talk about, I guess. But I think at this point, because I don't have solid current numbers for running that at this point, I wouldn't want to tell you guys what the best solution moving forward is without that. I'd like to have all the facts before I make a recommendation.
Any other, council discussion, public comment? Almost full time. If not, I'll take a, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion by Jared, supported by Mike. Lisa?
Jared,
Yes.
Bill? Tim,
Yes.
Gwen? Yes. Jared,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
James?
Yes. Meeting adjourned. We are not back for 3 weeks.